Welcome to the Biohacker Babes podcast with your hosts, Lauren Sampatero and Renee Bells. We're sisters, and we're here to empower you to take control of your health journey, optimizing your wellness with the latest science-backed tools, expert interviews, and personalized insights. All simplified and ready for you to take action. If you're ready to discover your true health potential and the greatest version of yourself, it's time to dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 315 of the Biohacker Babes. I'm Renee. I'll be your co-host today. And I have my other babe, my sis.
Hey,
What's up?
sis. This is Lauren. What's up, everybody tuning in from New York City today? Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, we got a Just the Babes episode for you all. We were inspired just yesterday to do an episode about health myths. It's funny. I feel like I've been asked this a lot lately since we've been at a couple conferences and been on some podcasts. So we're like, let's bring this to our audience. So we're going to break down 5 common health myths that we hear. And just to give you a little sneak peek, we're going to be talking about whether dietary cholesterol actually raises your cholesterol, whether snacking boosts your metabolism, does intermittent fasting make you lose weight? Is cortisol really the villain that we all have heard it is? And then finally, will the sun kill you? Woo!
I'm holding my breath. Please tell me.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be covering today. So yeah, let's kick off with the cholesterol question because I think eggs are the big one that have been demonized, right? I feel like our whole lifetime we've seen every headline from, eggs are going to kill you. You're going to have a heart attack. It's bad for your brain. It's bad for this and that. Or eggs are the ultimate superfood. So we wanted to debunk that. And to start off, I think we have to break down that cholesterol is not a bad thing. Yes, you could have too much, but there's so much more when we're looking at the full picture of cardiovascular health. It's not just high or low cholesterol, then the story, that's your verdict of heart health. So we need cholesterol, right? We need it for brain function. We need it for our hormones. We actually find now that people that have really low cholesterol are at an increased risk for dementia, and that's because of the brain connection. So I think it's first good just to set the stage on cholesterol for that, how important that is for the body. Would you add anything else to that?
Yeah, I would say just it's essential for life. We have it in every single cell membrane. Every cell membrane contains cholesterol. Cholesterol, which is like a waxy substance that actually is going to provide to the cell membrane. We want stability in the cell, but also fluidity. There's structure, but it also it's fluid so that we can get nutrients into the cell, toxins out of the cell. And without that cholesterol, your cells would actually fall apart, which is kind of funny to think about. If you imagine the trillions of cells in your body, if they all just fell apart, we just be a blob of, I don't know, a blob of wax, I guess. So it really is essential to life. And I think, yes, there's a lot of myths around it. We've demonized it. We've told ourselves that lower is better. Doctors, cardiologists are even saying this. And I do think we have to question and maybe challenge, where does that belief come from? I think when we look at a lot of the literature, it's always good to look past the headline, not just with cholesterol studies, but also on your cholesterol labs. A lot of labs are looking deeper now into particle size and to the ratios, into APO, lipoproteins. We really need to look at the full picture, because if we're not looking at the full picture, we really can be fooled by just the headline. So coming back to the studies, I think if we look a little bit deeper, we can see that actually maybe a lot of this is industry funded. Pose the question and maybe challenge how much of this is because we have a lucrative solution, for example, statins. How many doctors are pushing this because it's oh, well, I can just give you the statin and then your labs are going to look better, your cholesterol is going to look lower. But as you mentioned before, Renee, I think that could potentially be really dangerous because it does help to regulate and synthesize hormones. So that's steroid hormones, but even something like vitamin D, which is more of a hormone than a vitamin. It provides that cellular membrane and integrity. And we could talk about why would cholesterol be high or low? Really, cholesterol, and there's, different sizes, but LDL, which is the one that really gets the bad rap, right? We put in quotations, the bad cholesterol, LDL. LDL is actually just a delivery truck. LDL is delivering cholesterol molecules for repair. So that makes you go, wait, why is the body elevating the LDL? Why is there all these delivery trucks that are out for service? Why is there such a high need for repair in the body? So that's when we look under the hood and go, okay, we have a lot of repair to do because we have inflammation, oxidative stress. We have a lot of toxins in our environment. We have poor food supply. We have stress from the toxins, but emotional stress, physical stress. There's just like a lot of stress. So we're signaling to the body that we need to repair. And in that repair signal, we get this elevated LDL, quote unquote, bad cholesterol. So I think it's always a very nuanced conversation. And the best thing to always ask is why? Why is it high? Rather than go, it's high, let's take something, a drug that will lower it without looking under the hood. I think that's a big piece that we're missing.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the statin piece. Obviously, if you're on a statin or your doctor's recommending it, please work with your doctor on this. We're not saying just like
Yes.
stop taking something, work with them. But I think it's really good to know that statins can deplete CoQ10 in the body. And CoQ10 is known for obviously mitochondrial health, but especially heart health. So I'm
Hmm.
like, why are we going to deplete something that's really important for our heart? So, and there's a lot of the, I think, side effects people experience with statins is from the depletion of CoQ10 and other nutrients. So, just something to be aware of if you are in need of
Yeah.
that.
And at least I think
Yeah.
more people are getting caught on to that. The average person, but also doctors are now recommending, okay, you're taking a statin, you should also take CoQ10. But that's still not the whole picture. And is that really the best way to get from A to B to take this and then take the adjunct that's going to help, I guess, blunt the issue? Why don't we look at it from a wider, deeper perspective or a more wide viewpoint and figure out, can we come at this from another angle? So this always comes back to, can we lower inflammation and oxidative stress by eating cleaner food, reducing processed food, avoiding, the toxic seed oils? It's not just like seed oils by nature, but the seed oils that have been adulterated because they are unstable and they've been applied with heat and sun and been sitting out or sitting in plastic. We do need to be aware of those toxic seed oils. I would say insulin resistance is a really big thing, and that could also be from eating processed foods, but not managing blood sugar, whether that's you're eating actual sugar or if you're just unregulating your carbohydrates or not balancing your protein, fat, and fiber. There's a lot of things that could put you into insulin resistance or poor glucose management. What else would you add to that list?
Yeah. Well, I think with that, the fiber piece, I find that
Yeah.
increasing fiber in the diet can help with cholesterol levels. And I don't know the exact mechanism. Is it the impact on blood sugar? Because we know fiber can help with glucose control
Hmm.
and metabolic health.
Hmm.
And also with that liver health, right? The liver is very important in controlling this. So if you're not watching all the environmental toxins, personal care products, your liver could be burdened and that could be leading to the higher cholesterol. Alcohol consumption.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that those are like maybe the two things I look at first when someone comes to me and they say like, "Oh my, look at my labs, my cholesterol is high." First, I'm like, "Okay, let's think about, are you detoxing well and are you managing your blood sugar?" Let's just start with those. Those are very modifiable things.
Yeah,
I
that's
would say there's
great.
some even like further layers of this. Like there are some genetic factors, and we know genetics are not your destiny. Genetics may set the stage, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger. So, again, your food choices, your lifestyle habits, your exercise, stress management, sleep, of course. But there are genetic SNPs like the ApoE gene, which we each have a copy of, which can predispose us to Alzheimer's, neurodegeneration. And we know with that genetic SNP, you can have an altered LDL response. So, I tend to have a slightly higher LDL, I think probably because of that ApoE gene. Now,
Same.
again, we can control for that through environment. So it's like I know and Renee knows, we both know we really need to control our lifestyle and our environment to prevent that gene from expressing. And I think there's some other genetic factors, like you could be a hyper responder. There is a small subset of the population where we didn't get to this quite yet, but the myth is that dietary cholesterol, so cholesterol that's in foods, and we blame the eggs, as Renee mentioned, the myth is dietary cholesterol raises your blood cholesterol. When we actually dig into the biochemistry, that's not true for most people unless you are what's called a hyper responder. There is a small subset of the population that does actually see an elevated cholesterol rise from eating dietary cholesterol. But I would say by and large, we do not need to be afraid of eating eggs. Eggs, I think, in our opinion, are like one of nature's perfect foods. We're all trying to get all of our vitamins and nutrients and take supplements. Look at an egg. What's in an egg? B vitamins, all of your
Choline.
minerals, choline, which we need for brain health, and choline is so important for that ApoE4 gene. All of your minerals that are great for thyroid, like selenium, manganese, zinc, right? All of those. You get all of your B vitamins. It's like all the things that I'm trying to get from a bottle, but we can get it from eggs, which is awesome.
Right. The whole egg.
The
The
whole
whole
egg,
egg.
not the egg white, the whole egg with the yolk, the white and the yolk, yeah. Because
Yeah.
there's a synergy there too, right? They
Right.
actually accentuate each other. The benefits of each are compounded when you eat it together.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? If eggs were the problem, my cholesterol would be 1,000 because I eat a lot of eggs. So I'm clearly not a hyper responder, but
I do not
yeah.
think you're a hyper responder. So, it's always good to test your cholesterol, but I find like we spend a lot of time blaming that part of your lab panel when there's so much more we could dig into with metabolic health, glucose, detoxification. But if you are looking at your labs and you want to optimize that, I would just say in general, like values above 200 for total cholesterol are not automatically dangerous. We just need to like look under the hood. Generally, HDL, which we quote unquote say is the good cholesterol, I would say like above 60 for men, above 70 for women. Glycerides generally under 90, LDL generally under 130. But still, we got to put the puzzle pieces together. We have to look at the ratios of the LDL to HDL, into the total, and then we can look at like a more advanced panel, which has like the LDL particle size. We got inflammatory markers, insulin resistance. I think are far better indicators potentially of a cardiovascular risk, if that's really what you're concerned with, than just total cholesterol alone. I would actually throw that total cholesterol number maybe potentially out the window.
Yeah, and have you heard that the labs have actually changed the range for total cholesterol? Like it used to be it wouldn't be flagged as high unless it was above 300. Over the years at some point it came down to 200 as the flag. And like for me, I always share, my cholesterol is always 205. So it's always red high on every lab test I get done.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I heard that they changed the range. I don't know how much time it took for that to happen, but
I've heard that too. And then I'm skeptical. I'm like, are we lowering it because we think we have the solution?
yeah, good
Not to say
question.
that statins are bad across the board and that no one should take them. It's just like, can we use a little more discretion? Can we do a little bit more discovery? Is there something that we're missing? Can we miss something by, playing what we call as like pharmaceutical whack-a-mole, just taking a pill for an ill? Are we missing like the broader puzzle or picture?
Right, right. Almost like cholesterol is like, hey, there's something going on you need to look at. Like, thank you for the red flag so we can actually look deeper. And then also, I would add, like, on top of just those labs, there are so many other tests out there now for heart health, right? We can look at your calcium score. You can do an ultrasound. I did a carotid artery scan. There's a lot of really cool technology. If you really are concerned about cardiovascular health, I think there's other options. And Ben Greenfield, I think, is a good resource for this because he has gone through this journey of heart health where he discovered he actually had a lot of things going on that his labs weren't showing. Like he started doing all these other tests and he was like, wow, I really need to rein this in. There was a genetic factor. And so I'm going to link in the show notes a really good article and podcast from Ben. So, because that's like, you could spend a whole day just like listening and learning about this. But if you're interested, we'll put it in there.
Days, 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 days. We're trying to get through 5 of these categories. So I'll just say in general before we proceed, don't let this be the end all of your discovery here. Let this be the beginning. We really want you to research this on your own. Let this be the catalyst to go, oh, there is more to learn about this. What are my questions? Where can I look? And if you need more resources, we're always happy to share them with you. But this is a little scratch on the surface, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Eat your eggs.
Eat your eggs.
All
Also,
right.
Dr. Berg has a lot of great episodes. He does like very quick hits on topics. And so if you just like search Dr. Berg eggs, he goes through a lot of great quick fired hit episodes. And he has some like good dad jokes. He like puts eggs into every word. He'll be like, this is excellent information.
Yeah. He was shell shocked about this
Yeah,
data.
so if you enjoy a little humor with your egg education, go search for
Your
Dr. Berg.
education.
Or egg education. Yeah.
Maybe too much, too much. Okay, yeah, but maybe we should link to one of those episodes because I think it's also interesting what he was saying about like a lot of the studies that are anti-egg, they were going based off of people reporting what they had eaten, which we know is not the best way because most people don't
Yeah.
accurately remember what they eat. We tend to think we ate better than
Yeah,
we did, so that can
for sure.
skew studies big time. So, okay,
Definitely. Yeah.
all
Okay.
right.
Myth number 2, snacking boosts your metabolism. You've got to be snacking all day long if you want your metabolism to stay revved and so you can burn a lot of calories and be fit. Not true? Not true. Yeah,
Pulse.
this is still old advice. Maybe this is old news for you, but it still comes up. I still hear people all the time, or, people that keep snacks in their bags, or they go like, oh, I got low blood sugar, I got to eat, or I couldn't possibly fast, my blood sugar is low. Well, the snacking's not going to help you. It's probably actually going to perpetuate the issue. Um, let's just jump to it. Like when we look at glucose with something like a continuous glucose monitor, which is a small device you can put into your arm with a filament that will continuously read your glucose. It's a fascinating study if you've never done it. If you've been here a while, you've heard us talk endlessly about CGMs. But when we look at a CGM with snacking, we actually see that the glucose stays elevated across the day if you are snacking a lot because your glucose really needs time to recover. So if you're not giving yourself time between snacks or between meals, your glucose is going to stay elevated. And so basically the next time that you eat, it's probably going to bump up a little bit more, or it's going to bump up a little bit more, or maybe it was like just about to cool off and calm down. And then your body goes, wait, nope, not time to calm down. We're going to stay elevated. And that's happening because we're calling on insulin. Insulin is the hormone that directs glucose. So we're seeing on the glucose monitor that your glucose never recovers, and we don't want that for many, many reasons. From a glucose perspective, if we have glucose floating around in the bloodstream, that's very inflammatory. It's very damaging to epithelial tissue. If the glucose is excessively high, we got to put it somewhere. Your body's going to end up storing it. It's going to store it in the liver, and that's going to end up storing it in fat cells, which is sort of like an endless storage capacity. We don't want that. So we really want rest and recovery between snacks, or maybe we don't snack at all. Maybe it's just rest and recovery between meals, much like you recover between exercise, right? I mean,
Yeah.
no one is exercising 6 times a day, don't think, or hopefully you're not exercising 6 times a day. But,
Yeah.
relative to how many times you eat, you wouldn't do back-to-back workouts. You probably would be pretty exhausted. Or even if you did that one day, you're probably not doing continuously. Because how could you? Your muscles couldn't function. Your cardiovascular system couldn't keep going without rest and recovery. Somehow we've like overrode this signal with eating. It's like somehow we can just like keep on snacking. That doesn't mean that you should keep snacking.
Yeah. Yeah. The snack industry has done very well. Like some of it, I feel like
Very
it's just
well.
like marketing to get people to buy like chips and nuts and things like that. Yeah. I don't know.
Bars, snack bars, which are delicious, Sometimes I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. But I personally try to avoid buying those just because if I'm eating a bar, then I'm probably not sitting down to a real meal and getting the nutrients that I should. Not to say you should never do it. I think sometimes, there's a place for a snack bar. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes, I mean, even like, I was just at Health Span Summit and I was emceeing all day. And one of the days I didn't have time to get lunch, but I had snacks in my bag. I had 2 hard boiled eggs, a Bursky beef stick, and some macadamia nuts. Not the most
wow, nutrients.
well-rounded meal. I mean, yeah, protein dense. I had my good healthy fats, and it kept my brain going through the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Not a typical lunch, but hey, in that case, I was like, thank goodness I had packed stuff in my bag because I don't think I could have pushed through without that. I know everyone's like, oh, but you could have just fasted through. I'm like, not when you're burning through glucose in your brain, like thinking and talking so much. Like you need that, or at least I personally needed that fuel. So sometimes snacks can be handy when they're, I guess, more of a meal replacement, if you think about it that way. I don't know.
Yeah. I think this just comes back
But
to knowing your body. And
yeah.
again, challenging, do I really need that snack, or have I just conditioned my metabolism based on poor glucose regulation to need it or think that I need it? Certainly, if you're on a blood sugar roller coaster because you're always snacking, yes, you're going to need it to pick your glucose up because you're like getting peaks and valleys. You're spiking and you're dropping, you're spiking and you're dropping, which is making you have cravings and irritability and that hangriness that we all joke about, right? That's a real thing, but what got you there in the first place? Are you not eating enough protein or good fat or fiber? If you are just relying on these snack bars, protein bars, not sitting down to eat a well-rounded meal with all of the good macro and micronutrients, then yeah, your glucose is probably going to be dysregulated and you are going to be a snacker. So just challenging that, like, okay, maybe that's how I am today, but is that how I need to be forever? And I will argue, like, there are some people that do need to eat smaller, more frequent meals. I would say if some people are dealing with digestive dysfunction or some gut issues, sometimes that's a short term therapeutic strategy to heal the gut. So I'm not saying if you're eating 6 meals a day, immediately go and eat 2 to 3. You got to know your body and your biology and what's happening. But if you are just like snacking because of this myth, because you thought that it was going to be good for your metabolism, let's challenge that. Let's put on a glucose monitor. Let's try to eat more real food and just know that, I don't know, maybe the snack industry is fueling this idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So no snacking, or at least starting to work your way down. I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe slowly but surely.
Slowly
So,
but surely.
so this is a good segue into our next myth that intermittent fasting will make you lose weight.
Is it true?
So, you know, I think there's a lot we got right and a lot we got wrong with intermittent fasting. I mean, intermittent fasting definitely had its time in the spotlight the last couple years. So, one thing I think has helped with as far as why you may lose weight is when you condense your feeding window, what I have seen with clients is they tend to eat less calories. So, yes, that can lead to weight loss, right? Just having less calories. But also, I think with circadian rhythm, really eating when the sun is up is how humans evolved, right? Humans, I don't think they were eating in the caves in the dark with their fire. That doesn't make sense. They're eating when the sun is up. So, a lot of people have made this intermittent fasting a skip breakfast and eat a large dinner kind of a way. And we like to say, or see the opposite. So in the morning, we want that fuel, get that breakfast, good protein, healthy fats, some fiber. And then if you were to skip a meal, maybe you skip dinner or do a smaller dinner. So just like shifting that and like the morning. And I was that way too. I was like, oh, this is so nice to skip breakfast because you're rushing out the door to work. It's one less thing to think about. Great. I'll just grab my cup of coffee and go.
Breakfast is so inconvenient.
But it's also my favorite meal. It's so delicious. Like I
Yeah.
could eat breakfast all day long. But I think just jumping to like, oh, I'll just drink my coffee and run out the door, you maybe will feel temporarily okay because you have that cortisol going. You're running on adrenaline. So you think, oh, I'm not even hungry. I have energy. I can just push through. I'll wait till lunch to eat. But over time, especially for females, that can really damage your hormones. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And again, I don't think intermittent fasting is not bad if you think about why we're doing it. Like you said, we're trying to condense the window so we can reap the benefits of the fasting, which similar to the snacking idea, we're trying to get that rest and recovery because if your systems, your organs get the rest and recovery, they can come back and work more efficiently. That's really what we're trying to attain here. So if we can get the benefits of the fasting window, but harnessing the timing of circadian rhythm, so as the sun is rising and our cortisol is rising, we want to take advantage of that very insulin sensitive window. And I do see that by and large, like men do better with the intermittent fasting where you're pushing back the breakfast and pushing back the lunch. But I'll just tell you the red flags of how I know it's not working for people are the females that are like, oh, I can just drink coffee because it makes me not hungry. That's not good. If coffee's taking away your hunger, well, one, you're like dulling your intuitive signals we really need to survive and stay in touch with our bodies. So you don't want to kill that hunger signal. If you're hungry, let's harness that. Another red flag is then like you're pushing it back. You're skipping breakfast and you're pushing lunch really late, and then you go to eat dinner and then you're still hungry after dinner. So then you're snacking like up until bedtime. That's a huge red flag. So I see that more with women, but I do see men can do it where they're like, oh, yeah, I can eat a late lunch and then eat a dinner and then I'm just done. That's great. But if you're suppressing your hunger with coffee, if you're getting like really snacky or irritable or just feel like, oh, I just like need something after dinner, it's because you really starved your body for a lot of the hours of the day. So at some point that's going to catch up with you. It's going to catch up with you at nighttime. And then You don't want to eat all those calories at nighttime when your insulin's trying to go to bed. Your body's trying to like wind down. We're trying to get into parasympathetic rest and recovery. Things just like are not going to work as well. Your digestion's not going to work as well. Potentially, it's going to really disrupt your sleep. So, I think we agree this is a timing issue, right?
Yeah. Also, I think just the misunderstanding of what intermittent fasting means. Like, intermittent means you're fasting intermittently.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe it's a 24-hour fast one day and then the next day you're not fasting. Like, there's so many different ways of looking at fastings.
Mhm.
And even like the rule that we always say is 12 hours overnight, no food for everyone. Some people are like, that's fasting. Other people are like, that's not fasting. So I think some of it's like the lingo that has been thrown around and been confusifying.
Or confusifying. Yeah, if 12 hours is scary to you, then, like, that's your entry point. Let's start and just try to get the normal circadian 12-12, and then if you can accomplish that, we can push that back a little bit. So this is always, like, know your biology and your preferences and your lifestyle and, like, why are you doing it? We gotta be asking ourselves why we're doing it, because if you can answer that question, I think you'll actually solve for a lot of your own questions and find the best way to approach this for yourself.
Yeah. And right now, I'm just doing 12 hours overnight, maybe sometimes 14 hours. And then I'm using Mimeo, which is the fasting biomimetic. So, again, like, what's your goal? For me, I want the fasting benefits for longevity, but I
Mhm.
also want to preserve my hormones. I'm also trying to work on my cortisol, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So, for me, the supplement that I can just take 2 capsules in the morning to get those benefits is solving my goal.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
to each his own.
So many benefits to fasting, but it's not easy for
Yeah.
everyone. So,
Yeah.
okay, so for the women that are fasting, we got to be careful if you're fasting too much in the morning because this can really suppress hormones. It can have a negative impact on our cortisol, which leads us to our next myth, which is cortisol is bad and needs to be lowered. You hear this a lot. What should I do for my cortisol? And a lot of the supplementation and strategies out there are just assuming that your cortisol is high and needs to be brought down. Well, let's zoom out for a second. We need cortisol. We need to understand that. Cortisol is not the enemy, it's actually a survival hormone. It's very anti inflammatory by nature. And it really is like one of the most essential regulators of your energy, your mental clarity and focus, your immune system, your metabolism. It has so many interactions in your body. So cortisol is not the enemy, and we really need to look at a cortisol curve. So by saying that cortisol is either high or low is incorrect because with the rise and fall of the sun, circadian rhythms, cortisol follows that same curve. So we want it to rise sharply when we wake up. That's called our cortisol awakening response. It's going to peak around noon when the sun is the highest in the sky. And then it's going to gently taper off throughout the afternoon. It's going to bottom out before we go to bedtime so that melatonin can rise because these are inversely related. When cortisol is high, melatonin should be low. And then the opposite, when cortisol is low, melatonin should be high, and that's your sleep time. So, this is a natural mechanism that we want every day. So, if we said that cortisol was bad and we needed to lower it, we could be suppressing a really good thing. So, the point of this is just we need to look at the nuances. We got to look under the hood. We got to look at the individual, which is why we really love testing. Renee's going to talk about some testing shortly, but we need to know, is cortisol high across the board, like across the day? What if it's high at one point of the day when it's not supposed to be high and low at a time when it's not supposed to be low? Or maybe it's flatline and low across the day. So if you're out there Googling, I'm stressed, my cortisol is high without actually knowing, is your cortisol actually high? And then you take something like an adaptogen, I'll just, not to demonize, but something like an ashwagandha, wonderful plant adaptogen that can be used short term to help your body become more resilient, to adapt to the stressors. But in general, it does have a lowering effect on your cortisol. So if you're feeling like, I'm super stressed, my cortisol must be high, I should take ashwagandha. But in actuality, your cortisol is flatlined through the day. You could be suppressing and lowering your cortisol even more, which is going to make you feel terrible, terrible,
Yeah.
hypothetically.
Yeah. And Okay, so but why would people say cortisol is bad though? I think we do need to say yes, high cortisol all the time could be bad. We even see that it can actually shrink hippocampal volume in the
Hmm.
brain.
Hmm.
So yes, that could be bad, but guess what? Your body has a protective mechanism, right, with the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. When your cortisol is extremely high for a long time, the HPA axis will actually adapt to then lower cortisol, which is what, like you said, if you see like a flat cortisol across the day, that usually means you have been under chronic stress for a very long time. And the body's like, hey, we're going to protect and preserve your brain. So we're actually going to just shut down the response to all this. And then that's where we see that low cortisol. It is a protective mechanism in the body. Doesn't feel great, but we want to survive, right? That's what we're here to do. We're here to survive. So that's a really interesting adaptation.
Yeah, the body and the
Yeah.
brain are so smart. They are here to protect us, so we can't interfere too much without really understanding all of the systems and the interaction between the systems. Because we could really be going against our biology when our body's like, wait, I'm trying to do this. I think the first step is always like, can we remove the stressor? If you are someone that's cranking cortisol all day long, you're rushing, there's no downtime, you have fires in every possible place in your life, like let's look at that because an adaptogen like an ashwagandha is not going to fix that, right? And not only is it really terrible for the brain, but when we're constantly releasing cortisol, we actually produce leaky gut. Also, a survival mechanism. We're designed to have leaky gut because when the gut becomes leaky, we get this transport of electrolytes and glucose into the bloodstream so we can use it so we can run away from the threat. But if we're constantly cranking cortisol, the gut stays leaky. And then we've all heard the dangers of leaky gut. If you have leaky gut, we got all kinds of invaders crossing in and out of your microbiome. If your gut is leaky, your brain is leaky. You definitely don't want a leaky brain. So, again, this is a survival mechanism, but we need it to be acute, meaning we need it to be short term. We have to recover from the stressor. So, I would say, like, big picture is like, let's manage our stress response and the influences in our life. And then, if you do suspect that you have cortisol dysregulation, not just let's demonize cortisol, because cortisol is not the problem, it's dysregulated cortisol. That's the problem. Can we test and figure out exactly what's happening at any given point of the day? Like maybe you have a very low cortisol awakening response. So it'd be like low cortisol when you wake up. That's when the sun is rising, when your cortisol should be rising. That could happen from toxins or infections, or maybe your melatonin didn't rise because you got a lot of blue light the night before you were on your devices, TV, what have you. So we could go in and fix the environment, or we could do certain nutrients to help preserve that cortisol at that certain point of the day. Or maybe you're getting a cortisol rise or peak like later in the day. That could actually be a glucose or like a food sensitivity. There's so many nuances. So we don't want to just like blanketly try to influence your cortisol because we think it's bad and needs to be lowered. Hopefully we're getting this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a personal journey with this, and that's where the testing is really, really helpful. So for a long time, we've done the Dutch test with clients, which is, that's a urine and saliva kit that's looking at, I mean, all your sex hormones, how your, the metabolites, cortisol, cortisone, how you're metabolizing that. So that's very, very insightful if someone wants to like do a deep dive. That's been a great test. And then now something I'm experimenting with is Ellie Health, which I think could be groundbreaking because now we're able to salivary cortisol in the moment on your phone. Yeah.
My cortisol just went up.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I remember 15 years ago how I had to like beg a doctor to write a script for me to get my cortisol checked, like 4-point salivary cortisol test. And now we can do it on our phone. And I heard that a continuous cortisol monitor that you would put on your arm just like a CGM is coming.
I have really mixed feelings about that.
It wouldn't be long term. You wouldn't always wear it. But for, like you said, if someone feels like they're dysregulated and they can't figure out you're chronically exhausted, you're wired but tired, these are signs that something could be going on. And so maybe like a CGM, you would just wear this for 14 days and see really what's happening. Like the last time I did my Dutch test, my cortisol spiked so high after a sauna session.
Mm-hmm.
which is fine because it's a hormetic stress. But it was like, wow, that was really wild to see the test from that. So I don't know. I think LA Health could be cool because you can look at your cortisol awakening response, or you can spot check. Like you can literally be like at a red light and be like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Spit on this thing. Let me check my cortisol real quick and see what's going on. So
Ooh, I think this is
it's
the grand difference between you and I. That wouldn't be good for me because getting that
okay.
instant biofeedback would stress me more.
Okay. Okay.
So for the listeners, like this is Lauren, my Aura ring, I don't check until later in the day because if I get that number first thing in the morning, it's very influential to me. It will really like dictate how I feel about myself. Whereas Renee likes to check it. She likes to be informed, and that really like she's not. If it's a bad score, it doesn't matter. It rolls off her shoulder. So I know for me, if I saw the cortisol and it was bad, I would have like probably a more elevated stress response in that moment. So I don't know. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Everyone's different with their data. So
Yeah. So I prefer the Dutch test. As Renee said, we've been running that on clients for a very long time, and you can test throughout the day. So you get that cortisol awakening response. You get 30 minutes later. You get a noon when the cortisol should be the highest. You get your afternoon. You get before you go to bed when it should be its lowest. And then if you do wake up overnight, you don't have to wake yourself up to do it. But if you happen to wake up, you can get in the middle of the night cortisol. And that's really nice to be able to see that curve. And then we just get more pieces to the puzzle. That's what we love in, this whole health mystery extravaganza journey. The more pieces we have to the puzzle, the more clear the picture is. So if that's not something that you've done, some doctors will script it for you. If that's something that you're interested in and you can't get it, you can certainly come to us and ask us for it. We're happy to set you up with a Dutch test because I don't know, it's pretty cool.
yeah. All right. So with cortisol in the morning, we also have sunshine.
Wait, what a transition. And we did not plan it this way at
I
all. But we
know.
all have naturally just flowed into the next. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The final myth is the sun will kill you. Block the sun at all costs.
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay. So I think we need the sun. Humans who have evolved outdoors in the sun, but we need it in the right doses. And I think the sun got a bad rep because, typically what we see people that live up north, they're in the winter, all winter long, they're inside, they're not getting sunshine. And then they go down to Florida for spring break and they fry and their skin is red, they're sunburned, they're damaging their skin. And that, yes, that could potentially lead to skin cancer.
Mm-hmm.
We're not recommending you do that. So it's all about the right dose.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit every day, or if you are that person up north and you're going down south for spring break, use a non-toxic sunscreen. Be very aware of how much sun time you're getting. Maybe you even wear a hat or long sleeve shirts, things like that. Like you don't want to go from 0 minutes to 6 hours in the sun.
Yeah. And check the UV. I
And
always
the
check the
UV,
UV before I go out because if it's a 9, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative or maybe change the timing of when I'm going to go out. Whereas if UV is like a 3 or a 4, I'm like, oh, okay, I can go to the beach and I'm going to be okay. Like I'm going to be unscathed for X number of hours.
yeah. And so you can use the D-Minder app. And there's also these bracelets that you can wear outside. And as you reach your UV tolerance, the beads will change colors. So that's another cool thing. Do you use anything else to check
We had those
the test?
stickers at one point. There's like a little
Yeah, the
sticker
stickers.
that would change color once it was saturated enough with like signal to synthesize vitamin D. Yeah, it's not a direct measure of vitamin D, but it was like enough UV that your body could intake that and potentially convert it and synthesize to vitamin D, which of course we know the importance of vitamin D. So, everyone's tolerance is going to be different. I would say there's some side conversations around this on like your nutrition, the types of food that you eat, like the more antioxidants that you eat, potentially the more skin protection you will have. Could maybe say that people that eat a high amount of processed foods or adulterated seed oils tend to burn more because they don't have that internal protection. So we're very focused on the external protection with the sunscreens, which are very laden with chemicals and toxins that we don't really want to be putting on our skin organ. So I think we need to shift the focus and also pay attention to the internal protection in addition to the timing. So perhaps this is 3-part, like external protection, internal protection, and then timing timing with the UV, time of year, where you are in relation to the equator is all very important.
Right, right. Yeah, the circadian rhythm aspect alone, I think so many people don't realize that they're moody, they're tired, they brain fog, they're not sleeping well simply because they're not getting outside in the sun enough. But yeah, with the internal, so and I have noticed this like over the years, like in high school and college, more so college when I did not eat very healthy, I feel like I was always sunburned. Like always. And now like I live in Vegas where it's sunny almost every day of the year. I couldn't even tell you the last time I had a sunburn. And I think my diet plays a big role and all the other things. But
That and
something
you have very consistent exposure.
yes.
You compared to someone that's indoors 50 weeks out of the year, but they go on a vacation 2 weeks out of the year and it's 0 to 100, as you mentioned before. Like, you, of course, you're
Yeah.
going to burn. Your body's like, whoa, what is this?
Right.
That would be
Right.
like not working out and then going to a CrossFit class. Like, that would be stupid, right? You want to build up your tolerance. You want to build up your
Yeah.
training age.
Yeah.
You can't just like jump in the deep end. There's so many analogies for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. So something else I've been playing with lately, there's this drink called sun powder.
Huh?
It's an internal sunscreen.
No.
That's kind of how they market it.
What?
So there's one ingredient I had never even heard of. So I wrote it down here. Leucotomus. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
So it actually increases the time you can spend outside before you hit that that redness. It also reduces pigmentation and melasma. It protects your skin against UV and visible light. So really cool ingredient. And then also it has nicotinamide, which you've probably heard about, which is really good for DNA repair. And then also astaxanthin, which I think people maybe are familiar with as an internal sunscreen. So it also protects your skin against the UV damage, the oxidative stress, good for collagen production, overall good for skin health. So, yeah, I got the cocoa one. I stir it up with a little bit of like macadamia nut milk, and it tastes like a chocolate, almost like a chocolate milk.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's delicious. So,
To all of you that are listening, you're very lucky because Renee doesn't share these things with me until she's sharing them with you. So you all hear them the
I
same time
didn't
as
tell
I
you
am.
about this.
Why
Oh,
have you
sorry.
been holding this back from me? Okay, so I looked up this ingredient because I had never heard of that. Polypodium leucotomus. I'm getting better. Maybe I can say it 10 times
Thomas.
fast. It's a tropical fern native to Central and South America. And wow, the extracts have been used in traditional medicine for centuries. Now being used as oral supplements, topical cream. It's very cool. I've never heard of that. Antioxidant, anti-inflammatory DNA protection. Very cool.
Yeah.
Will
I
you
think
link that in the show notes?
yes, I'll put the website in there. I think they also have a melon flavor. It was out of stock when I went to order, so I got the cocoa. I think the cocoa is great, but just to have another option. So,
Yeah, cocoa macadamia sounds real good.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So that's sun in relation to skin and like tanning, burning. But of course, we know sun has other benefits. Light. So, sun is a signal, it's a light spectrum. And when we get light into our eyes, this is like a very potent trigger for circadian rhythm, which is so important. That's why a lot of people have dysregulated mood and dysregulated immune systems because you're not getting that signal. And my biggest pet peeve, health pet peeve of 2025 is all these people wearing these colored lenses, the cool, trendy glasses, like the blue, the orange. You've seen these, yes?
Yeah, I didn't know is that like a fashion thing? I didn't know what was
Yes.
okay.
Very cool. Any hour of the day, except for when we should be using them at nighttime, we are blocking the natural spectrum of light. I'm seeing people like put them on before they even walk outside. Like I see people leave their apartment buildings with them on. And I don't know that they're all blue light blockers. You could have like a fake colored lens that's not actually blocking blue light. I would just check that because blue light is what we want in our eyes. Blue light, when it enters the eyes, is what triggers the brain to release cortisol. Again, anti-inflammatory. We want it to rise as we wake up. It's a mood regulator. And if you're not getting that signal, then you're potentially going to be very sleepy in the morning. You're not going to have a very good mood. Your brain's probably not going to turn on and be as focused and energized as it could be. So there's so many signals that we're getting from light. This is not just about getting the vitamin D and a nice tan, but it's for your mood, for your hormones, for your thyroid, for your metabolism, for your sleep, for your recovery, mental health, so many things. So, of course, we need to protect our eyes. So, hopefully, you heard our episode with Dr. Minal Agarwal. And this is a very cool thing that we learned from her is that people that live close to the equator where the UV is very high, we're seeing more damage to the eyes.
Cataracts.
Sunglasses are not bad. A lot of biohackers are like, I never wear sunglasses. And I would say, like, by and large, I don't wear sunglasses a lot, but if I'm out at the beach or the pool, if I'm going to be out for an extended period of time, I'm certainly going to wear them. But I think it's really important, at least in that first hour of your day, to get a little natural light in your eyes. And certainly, like, around sunset, get natural light into your eyes. And then if you're going to be out all day long, put some sunglasses on, but don't put your sunglasses on at 8 a.m. before you walk outside of your house.
Yeah. Yeah. Smart sunglass wearing is the key. Yeah. I say, like, if you're skiing or if you're on the water where it's like very reflective.
Mm-hmm.
When I was like 10 years old, we were out skiing in Colorado and I did not wear sunglasses one day. I don't even know the medical term, but I like burned my eyeballs. Like my eyes were swollen shut for 2 days.
I don't remember that, you poor thing.
I remember it was, huh?
How'd you even see going down the mountain? I feel like the white is so reflective. It's kind of blinding without sunglasses.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just like a stupid kid.
You're
I like
a
made
kid.
myself go blind. And I remember it was spring break in Colorado. So it was Easter weekend and my eyes were swollen shut. And I thought for sure that would get me out of going to church on Easter.
You did it
Mom was like, I didn't do it on purpose, but I was like, oh, this is like an added benefit. I don't have to go to church today. And Mom was like, no, you're going. And I remember being in church, like my eyes were just like, I can't see anything. So I learned my lesson.
Put the sunglasses on then at church. That's where you should wear them.
Yeah, yeah. So I do own sunglasses and I wear them when I need them.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this is a timing issue. We are honoring the Earth's natural timing and rhythms. Definitely know thyself. Don't jump into to the deep end of the sun exposure, UV exposure. But just know that, like, sun is one of the greatest nutrients. It is part of this existence. We cannot avoid it. It is not to be demonized, but certainly we have to be in the right relationship with it. And that's going to be different for everybody. Hopefully we shared enough resources. Renee, you got to put that drink in the show notes because I want to get it myself.
Yes, I will.
And those are our 5 myths. Any wrap-up comments, Renee?
No, that was fun. I think the only thing I did want to make sure we share today is our last event of the year is coming up, Hack Your Health in Tampa. Speaking of sunshine, let's go to Florida and hang out. Hopefully we'll have good weather. November 14th to the 16th. We're going to be emceeing that, our final event. We'll put a link in the show notes for anyone that wants to go. It's coming up.
Yeah, it's such a fun event. And we're going to be on stage Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday we get a play day to explore the conference. It's a really nice one. It's I don't know the event space because it hasn't been there yet, but the actual location
is nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's at the Tampa Convention Center. I've been there a few times.
The conference, at least last year, it used to be the Keto Con, so it has a lot of keto carnivore influences, but then now there's Biohacker, so there's a really cool melding of, like, you get the keto carnivore snacks, like there's tons of meat and jerky and fat bombs, but then there's also a little bit of tech, and it's like a really cool integration of a few different communities. So it's super fun. There's movement classes. We're going to have a good old time. Our family will be there. So if you want to come hang out with us, and I'm bringing my friend Nikki, I'm very excited.
Yay. Yeah, and our dad is speaking on Friday about biological dentistry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be Mom will be there. Ryan will be there. Yeah, family event.
Please let us know if you can make it. The link is in the show notes. Please scroll down. And thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Love this episode of the Biohacker Babes podcast? Head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We truly appreciate your support.
Until then, happy biohacking.
This podcast offers health, fitness, and nutritional information and is designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on this information as a substitute for, nor does it replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any concerns or questions about your health, you should always consult with a physician or other healthcare professional.